Yes, friends, lots of people ask me what is the best passive income? Because a lot of people have some assets sitting and they want to deploy those assets. Some people go for very risky investments like crypto market and whatnot. Some do stock options, that is risky as well. While others want to look for some businesses or real estate. No, I am not going to tell you that real estate is not one of the best options. Real estate is one of the best options. Matter of fact, I told you guys that about 15 years ago when I got into real estate, I researched about 100 different businesses, starting from food business to service business to supply chain, materials, construction, all kind of heavy equipment, heavy industry, consumer industrial, electronics, Amazon type businesses. And then I study actually food business, restaurant business. I studied many businesses, and then I realized for my situation, the best active, not passive, active income for me, I decided it's going to be real estate. So you have to see whether that is your active income or passive income. And then you need to make a decision accordingly. Now, I'm not going to go in the philosophy of real estate or not. Today's video is going to be all about rental properties and what must consider before renting. Now, first of all, I must tell you that rental is a good active or passive business. Yes, you heard it right. Active or passive business. Now, whether you do active or passive rental income business, you need to consider these factors. If you do not consider these factors, then unfortunately, this could come to haunt you. Many people actually sell out their rental properties because they get sick of it very quickly because they did not look at these important factors and they didn't consider them, did not execute them properly. And then rental business becomes really a big liability instead of an asset. So we are going to share those experiences with you, those points with you that you must consider. So your rental income become an opportunity, not a challenge. So here are these factors. So first of all, before you buy and rent a property, you must consider cash flow, positive cash flow. So you would say, what is positive cash flow? That you need to consider that if you are buying a property for $1 million, and let's say you put only 20% down, which is $200,000, and then it means you need to get 80% loan. Now that could be a private loan or it could be a bank loan. Of course, bank loan is the best way, cheapest way, more solid way, and also build your portfolio. So I would definitely consider bank. And then if you cannot buy $1 million property, buy a $500,000 property, buy a $100,000 property. Buy a property you can afford with your bank relationship. First thing is having the bank relations and using the bank money instead of private equity. But if you cannot get bank money, then of course, private equity is the other way to go, which I do not prefer. Secondly, then you must see whichever property you are going to buy that must have a positive cash flow. What is a positive cash flow? If, for example, you got $800,000 from the bank and the bank is charging you, let's suppose 6%, that's $48,000 a year plus taxes, plus maintenance, plus insurances, you need to add all that up. Let's say that's $60,000. So basically that you have a $60,000 worth of expense. And then you need to see that how much rent it's generating. If the rent generation is $70,000, then it means that you have positive cash flow. Means you are actually getting some money in lieu of your own equity you have put together. Now you don't have to pay anything from your pocket, even if you have a gap period where you do not have any tenant. And by the way, this example is not only for residential, this could be for commercial as well. It's just a basic rule that you must have a positive cash flow after doing all the math, including, of course, taking care of your interest because that's the biggest payment, taking care of your taxes. If you are paying utilities, taking care of utilities, you must have something for the maintenance, all those factors. And if there are any other factors like insurance and others, you must consider. And then you should say that that's a positive cash flow. Okay, so let's say that you had a positive cash flow, you have a property, you bought it, now you need to rent it. How would you advertise? That's very important. I think nowadays advertisement has become very easy. There are so many softwares or marketplaces where you can advertise. Of course, there's Facebook advertise, there is Craigslist, there is Angie's List, but I would say the best and the most popular nowadays is Zillow Rental Management. So Zillow has few sites. One of their site is only for rental management. I would recommend Zillow Rental Management. There is TurboTenant and others as well that not only help you advertise, but help you manage the leads as well. So first you need to advertise. Then after you advertise, the single biggest task you have is due diligence and vetting the tenants. So there are lots of fraud out there when it comes to vetting the clients, lots and lots of frauds. One of the most common fraud is that there are a lot of people who just want pictures of your property, and they will actually list your property, which you will not even know, because internet is a very, very vast place, and they basically will run a lot of scams on you and stuff. So a lot of those people who just call you from either overseas or from out of the state, and they're far away, and they just tell you, oh, we'll send you a cashier check, and then you just rent it out. Please, that is a scam. So just don't waste your time in it. Now, there are some other scams. There are people who will actually come in to see your property, and believe me, they look very real, very professional. They will basically offer you a cashier check to rent a property for a whole year. Be very, very aware of it. Basically, there are lots of cashier check, bank check, which is very difficult to get. And one must say, a bank check is that you need to have funds available. You need to have a relationship with the bank, and then the bank will give you the cashier check or a bank check or certified check. That means the money is available right away. You take that check to your bank, and the bank is supposed to give you money right away. Well, there are lots of hidden pitfalls in that. And that number one is, how do you make sure that when you get a cashier check, how do you make sure that it's real? Somebody didn't make that cashier check in their home. Yes, you heard me right. A lot of people nowadays very easily can make a cashier check in their home. You might think that this is a cashier check like a cash, but reality is these scammers are very, very smart, and unfortunately, law is not very strict, especially in the United States. In all the states, I don't care which state. Of course, some states are more lenient towards squanders than the others are. But if you have signed a lease contract, even if somebody gave you a fake cashier check, the problem with the cashier check is that if you have a relationship with your bank, which most of the time you do, you take that check to the bank, they will make the money available to you right away. But a week later, when the check gets bounced, because there was either no account, no bank, or no money in the bank, or closed account, your check is going to come back. You are liable for that money. Yes, you are liable for that money. It means you are on a hole. Let's say you got $50,000 for the whole year rent, and you deposited that $50,000. You wrote checks against it, and unfortunately, that check you got from your tenant get bounced. So now you got a huge problem in your hand. You have a tenant in the building because you took the check, you signed the lease, you gave the keys, and unfortunately, tenancy rights begins right away, and it is very difficult to get them out depending on the state. If you're in a blue state, yes, you understand what I mean by blue state. Yes, if you're in a blue state, it's far more difficult to get them out. Now, somebody committed fraud to you, which is, yes, it is crime. It is a crime to give a fraudulent check. But guess what? You go to a police station, you report that. As far as your tenancy goes and lease and all that, they will not even talk to you. They'll say, that's really a land court issue. You just go to a judge and evict them. Good luck. It'll take months and you'll spend a lot of money. And yeah, you may have to negotiate and pay those guys who actually committed fraud to you. You may even have to pay them something. Very unfortunate, right? Now, if you talk about fraudulent check, yes, that is a crime. They will take your report. Even if you prove them, or even if they know that this person has committed the fraud before. I had a situation where somebody committed a fraud just before they came to me, and they basically gave me a cashier check. And believe it or not, I did do some due diligence, and the person looked extremely believable, extremely professional, and unfortunately the cashier check was fake, and that's the reason I'm sharing this with you. And it got cashed in the beginning, but then it was bounced because, believe it or not, that account in that bank did not even exist. The bank name existed, but the bank on that particular state in particular address did not exist. So yes, the lesson learned is that what do you do? There is go on the internet and look at different ways of checking. Just like there are ways to check the dollar bill or $100 bill. Likewise, there's a way to check like watermarks and whatnot. But the best thing would be, before you give the keys out, you must call the bank and find out if these funds are available. Or maybe sign a lease in a way that you get the consideration before handing the keys. I don't know if that's possible, but most importantly, when you're using Zillow rental management, when you're using TurboTenant, make sure you use their software appropriately to have the credit check and background check. If they tell you, oh yeah, credit check, our credit is bad, our background is, this, that. No, don't go into that pit hole. Do not take their check. Do not take their credit lightly. You need to really make sure that the credit is appropriately there. Like if somebody is under 650 or under 700, you don't accept them. If somebody has wrong background check, then don't consider them. So it's very, very important that you do your due diligence right and you vet the right tenant, the tenant, how long they want to stay, when they want to rent, what kind of pets they have, what kind of restrictions you have, and then if a pet destroy your property, your hardwood, your carpet, then you have certain requirements. Then basically you must have escrow account and you must have a good lease document that has all stipulation of when the rent starts, when rent ends, what do you do with the security deposit, what do you do with the parking, what do you do with the lead paint issue, what do you do with the end of lease, beginning of lease. You gotta look at all those things. Yes, there is no free lunch. You always have to make it happen. Even though you think it's a passive income and is a positive cash flow, there are still some of the caveats you need to look at, and just don't feel bad. Unfortunately, in every single business, there are hurdles and there are things to learn. You will learn these things. Don't feel that this is an impossible business. It's not impossible. It's a great business. And matter of fact, rental is not only a good passive income, it could be a good active income as well. And also it has lots of other tax benefits, wealth management benefits, and one of the best 401k plan, retirement plan. It's great, but like I said, there is no free lunch. You need to do your due diligence before and after and manage the tenant. If you are going into any business, you should be ready to do some work, and this is part of a job. And the other thing in rental, I would say, is try to have a rental property pretty close to where you live or where you do business, so that you can go visit and keep under your eyes the thumbnails that you managing your rental portfolio properly. There are a lot of other things we'll continue discussing, but today I just wanted to share with you that there's lots and lots of scams out there for the rental income. Just beware of them and make sure that you are keeping your ears and eyes open. Set up the rental with the proper rental agreement so that both sides have a visibility. You could have a good tenant, and that is all possible. Just you need to be aware of it. Best of luck, and real estate will become a good passive or active income for you. Thank you very much.